We are now up to game week 2, and as usual, I'm going to be bringing you my predictions for all 12 games in the new 2023-24 Championship season. We start off at the Coventry Building Society, where Coventry City take on Middlesbrough. Both these sides getting off to a losing start. Coventry City narrowly losing out against Leicester City 2-1. Middlesbrough narrowly losing 1-0 against Millwall. Coventry City, I thought, did pretty well against a Leicester City side who I know didn't do the best in the Premier League last season, but still, a strong side in the Championship. I thought Coventry City, they had their fair amount of chances in that game. Middlesbrough in that 1-0 defeat could have gone either way. I suppose you could say a draw would have been the fair result, but it's just one of those games where whoever scores first just goes on to win the game. I'm going to go for a point apiece in this game. I'm going to go for a score draw, 1-1. Whenever these two sides face each other, just in the past few times, it has been really close. Of course, they did face each other twice in the playoffs last season. Both really close games. So I think we're going to see something similar, 1-1. We'll move on now to St Andrews, where Birmingham City take on Leeds United. Both these sides picking up a draw in their opening game. Birmingham City picked up a 1-1 draw against Swansea City. Leeds United coming from 2-0 behind against Cardiff City with a last-minute equaliser to draw that game 2-2. I fancy Leeds United to pick up all 3 points in this game. I'm going to back Birmingham to get one, but I'm going to go for a pretty comfortable 3-1 victory to Leeds United in this one. Next up, onto the Cardiff City Stadium, where Cardiff City take on Queen's Park Rangers. Cardiff, as I just mentioned above, 2-2 draw in their last game against Leeds United, where they did have a 2-0 lead in that first half. QPR getting absolutely battered by Watford 4-0 just in the first half, which also was the full-time result as well. QPR will definitely want to improve after that result, and I think they will do. I think they're going to bounce back in this one. Maybe a little bit against the odds here, but I am going to go for a Queen's Park Rangers 2-1 away win in this game. Cardiff City, they did well in their last game. They took the chances, but for the vast majority of the game, they were pushed back so deep, just wave after wave of Leeds attack. And although I do think that this game will be a bit more end-to-end than the Cardiff Leeds game, I do fancy QPR in this one. I don't rate Cardiff City as of yet. Of course, that might change as the season goes on. Yes, they picked up a draw against Leeds. It was a derby game. Players would have been fired up for it. It will be interesting to see what happens in this one, but I do fancy a QPR away win. We move on now to the John Smith Stadium, where Huddersfield Town take on Leicester City. Huddersfield Town losing 3-1 to Plymouth Argyle in their first game of the season. Leicester City beating Coventry City 2-1, coming from 1-0 behind in that game. 2 goals in the second half to pick up all 3 points. And I fancy Leicester to pick up all 3 points again in this game. I am going to go for a 3-0 Leicester City win. Nice, comfortable victory there. And then we move on now to the MKM Stadium, where Hull City take on Sheffield Wednesday. Both teams starting off the season with a defeat, but I fancy Hull City to bounce back against the Sheffield Wednesday side, who did narrowly lose to Southampton. We will come on to Southampton in a moment's time. Yes, they did manage to score a goal against them from a corner. They were against a very tough side, but I would have liked to have seen them get forward a bit more. Hull City, narrow 2-1 defeat against Norwich City in their last game, but I fancy them to pick up all 3 points in this one. I'm going to go for a 3-1 Hull City win in this one. We move on now to Portman Road, where Ipswich Town take on Stoke City. Ipswich Town got their Championship season off with a winning start. So Stoke City, very nice 4-1 victory last time out against Rotherham United. I think this one will be a bit closer than their last game, but I do fancy them still to pick up all 3 points. I'm going to go for a 2-1 away victory for Stoke City. Next on, we've got Millwall facing Bristol City at the Den. Millwall narrowly beating Middlesbrough 1-0 last time out. Bristol City picked up a 1-1 draw against Preston North End in their last game. I fancy Millwall to pick up all 3 points again. It'll be another narrow scoreline. It'll be a narrow win, but I still going to back Millwall for a 1-0 win in this one. Next up, Preston North End take on Sunderland at Deepdale, the first game of the season for us at home. And I know Sunderland lost their last game 2-1 against Ipswich, but I'm not overly confident. Sunderland, of course, we recently played them the final game of the season last season, where we lost 3-0, and I'm not really confident for this game. Of course, we've got a few injuries expected to return for our Carabao Cup game midweek, with the likes of Benjamin Whiteman and Calvin Ramsey. We've still got a few long-term absences with the likes of Emile Reese and Ched Evans. Robbie Brady still a bit 50-50 at the moment. But I am going to back Sunderland for a 2-0 away victory in this one. Unfortunately, I do think that they will bounce back and pick up all 3 points. We'll move on now to the New York Stadium, where Rotherham United take on Blackburn Rovers. Blackburn 2-1 winners over West Bromwich Albion in their first game. Rotherham United, of course, 4-1 defeat against Stoke City. Rotherham's going to have a pretty tough season, I think, this season, and I'm going to back Blackburn Rovers to pick up all 3 points again, and 2-1 away win for them. Next up, Southampton against Norwich. This one's going to be a pretty interesting one. You know, 2 Premier League clubs-ish, I suppose you could say. I know they're in the Championship. Norwich has been in the Championship for a couple of seasons, but Southampton, with Russell Martin and his possession style of football, they absolutely bombarded Sheffield Wednesday in terms of possession. I think it was like 80% to 20%, which is just absolutely mental. Possession doesn't win games of football. You know, obviously it certainly does help. If you don't have the ball, then you can't score. But it's just a bit too much for me. And I think we're going to see quite a few draws with Southampton this season. I still think they are going to do well. I think this is one of the games that they will pick up a draw. Of course, Norwich City got off their campaign with a victory, a 2-1 win over Hull City. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw in this game, though. But yeah, it will be interesting to see how Southampton do in the next coming weeks. And, you know, if fans grow tired of Russell Martin, you know, I feel like, you know, he's inherited a pretty good squad, you know, Premier League quality-ish. I know, obviously, they came down from the Premier League and they've lost a couple of players, but still got some top quality players in there. But just the style of football that he is playing with them, you know, we'll see what happens. But 1-1 draw here. And then the penultimate game of this game week, Watford take on Plymouth Argyle. Both of these sides picking up some pretty comfortable victories. Watford, as I said, 4-0 victory over QPR, and Plymouth Argyle with a 3-1 victory over Huddersfield Town. Lots of goals in both of these sides' first games. I am going to go for a low-scoring one, though, just to be a bit boring. But I am going to back Watford in this one to pick up a 1-0 home win. And then we finish off at the Hawthorns, where West Bromwich Albion take on Swansea City. West Brom narrowly losing to Blackburn Rovers 2-1 in their opening game, and Swansea grabbing a point in their last game. I'm going to back the Baggies in this one for a 2-1 home victory. And that wraps up my predictions for game week 2. If you did enjoy, please do leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all next time.